Okay, folks, we'll call the meeting to order. Time is 6 o'clock. Looking for an approval of the agenda, Mr. Clerk. Oh, with the added mover and seconder needed. Councillor Ridge, Councillor Stephen. All in favor? Passed. Just in case there's anyone in the audience, I want to reiterate after passing that business item C has been withdrawn, so members of the public that came to speak, that item will not be brought forward. So there'll be no delegations or comments about that agenda item. Okay, confirmation of minutes. Need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Sanek, Councillor Shaves, all in favor? Passed, okay. Item 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest. I see none. Okay, delegations, there are none. Briefings, I will turn it over to Director Lockheed. The time is yours. You have the next 45 minutes to an hour. No?
Thank you and good evening. It's great to be here tonight for a couple of briefings for this committee. First, I'm excited to introduce Nicole Daniels, Executive Director of the Kingston Arts Council, who will provide the committee with a briefing on the plan for administration of arts funding for the Corporation of the City of Kingston in 2024. The Kingston Arts Council administers the Arts Fund on behalf of the city and has been doing so since its inception in 2007, and they are responsible for renewing and updating the plan for administration every year. For 2024, there are no major changes being proposed to the plan for admin due to a larger city-led review of the Arts Fund currently underway. An update on that process was shared with this committee in October of 2023. Nicole will provide an overview of the Kingston Arts Council's process, changes to the plan for admin in 2024, and highlight some of the larger changes that the Arts Council continues to track that will be looked at through the larger review.
Thank you, Danica, and thank you all for having me here. It's wonderful to be here. I know you have a lot of business to get through tonight, so I will jump right in. The plan for administration for CCAF in 2024 continues to outline thorough processes for the administration of the funding, including but not limited to eligibility criteria, both for the applicants themselves and the projects or fund use, program objectives and adjudication criteria, which are provided to both the grants committee and the applicants. The Grants Committee composition, including the jury selection process through which KAC ensures the jury represents a diverse range of both artistic disciplines and demographics, and that they are knowledgeable in the arts beyond their area of expertise, are knowledgeable about the city itself, and have a high standing in the community. The plan also outlines oversight from the city throughout the administration process, including having city staff and council represented at each adjudication meeting with full access to application contents and discussions to ensure a fair, equitable, and unimpeded jury process. Confidentiality and conflict of interest rules governing the jurors, city staff, councillors on the grants committee, and KAC staff and board are also outlined in the plan. And finally, additional items such as the reporting process, dispute resolution processes, and financial plan for the administration of the fund. As outlined in the report presented by the city, the plan for administration has been submitted with minor changes, including updated dates throughout the document and minor edits to formatting and phrasing. Edits to the introduction and overview on page 4, namely including the city-led CCAF review and removing a paragraph about the effects of COVID-19 on the program, and an edit to one of the objectives listed on page 5 as suggested at the Arts Advisory Committee meeting on November 9th, objective 2, to nurture the creativity and arts engagement for all Kingston residents. The word all was removed from that sentence just to make it more attainable and realistic. KAC, in discussion with our staff and board and city staff, have not proposed any significant changes in order to maintain consistency and stability within the program in anticipation of larger changes being brought forward in 2025. We are confident in the administration of the program in its current state and look forward to making more substantial changes in the near future, which respond to community needs and strengthen the impact of the program. These changes will be guided by the recommendations proposed through the CCAF review regarding the program structure, goals, administration, and the resources needed to make those more significant changes. While we very excitedly await the recommendations and results of the city-led CCAF review, we continue to solicit and track feedback from community members, applicants, grants committee members, and other potential applicants. Examples of community feedback and priorities we've been tracking include assessing CCAF objectives and its impact, particularly with regards to IIDEA, assessing the changing arts landscape and emerging needs for responsive grant streams, in particular the need for creation grants for individual artists and collectives, for example, bands, and the eligibility of community and education-focused organizations. We've also been soliciting feedback on the existing application process, some of which we can adjust internally, adding word counts, making the applications a bit more navigable, and then some of which will be better accomplished through the review itself, for example, creating a grants portal. And reviewing the operating stream as well, so considering multi-year operating funding, reviewing the accessibility of the operating fund to new applicants, and the funding limitations within the operating stream for existing applicants. And of course, the biggest and most consistent feedback we receive is the need for more funding. We additionally strive to provide as many avenues for support as possible for CCAF applicants. Our office reopened to the public in March, strengthening our presence in the community and increasing access to the KAC itself. We have more opportunities for feedback and engagement through additional events and regular in-person office hours, and of course, we also continue to provide virtual appointments as well. Meetings are offered both to review previous applications, so going through jury feedback and providing a learning opportunity for applicants following the application process, as well as offering support ahead of each deadline to returning and new applicants through one-on-one meetings and information sessions. That is my overview as concisely as I can put it, and I'm more than happy to take any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions from Council? Councillor Sanik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. So the only change I'm not comfortable with is in the must meet the following objectives, the change that was made to the second point, removing the word all. And I think those objectives, they've been the same objectives from the start of the fund. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, like I'm not comfortable with removing the word all. And I know you said that the discussion was you have to be realistic, but I think it really changes the objective if the word all is not there. Like, was there full agreement with everybody, or like, was there more discussion about removing all? I don't know why at this point all had to be removed when we're about to do a review of the Kingston Art funding and hire a consultant for that.
Thank you, Councillor Sanik. This was a change that was, as I said, discussed in the Arts Advisory Committee. Councillor Shaves had suggested that saying, sorry, I'm just going to nurture creativity and arts engagement for all Kingston residents just isn't necessarily attainable, just because not all Kingston residents are necessarily going to participate in the arts. There was discussion at the committee level, and to my recollection, everyone agreed that it was not a change to the meaning of the objective, but just that the combination of the words must meet all of the following objectives and increase engagement for all Kingston residents. The combination of those two words, must and all, just made it not necessarily attainable.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to our second presentation. So Director Lockheed, I'll invite you back up.
All right. Hello again. So I'm excited to move to this second briefing. The Arts and Culture Services Department initiated the development of a Kingston music strategy in October 2022 with the goal to serve the community and provide a roadmap that identifies ways to improve support for local music and musicians, address gaps and opportunities specific to the city's music economy, and continue to embrace and promote Kingston's vibrant and diverse music communities. We are very excited to present to the committee the final Kingston Music Strategy, which reflects extensive public consultation for review and consideration. If approved, actioning of the strategy will begin in Q1 2024 by first establishing a music officer role with a mandate to lead the implementation of the strategy, which staff are recommending is done through a strategic partnership between the city's Arts and Culture Services Department and Tourism Kingston. The Kingston Music Strategy itself was developed by Nordicity, a leading international consulting firm with expertise in arts and culture strategic planning. It was fantastic working with this group over many, many months to develop the strategy, and they brought expertise in economic analysis, strategy, business, and policy as it relates to the arts and culture sectors. I'm very happy to welcome the lead consultants on this project, including Christian Roberts and Caitlin Cross, who are here this evening to provide a briefing on the music strategy.
Check. All right, thank you, Danica. On behalf of the Nordicity project team, it is my pleasure to begin this high-level overview of the strategy for Kingston's music industry and musicians. Before I pass it to my colleague Caitlin Cross to speak to the actual strategy, I'll provide some initial background. So in the City of Kingston's 2021 Creative Industries Strategy identified music as a potential driver for the creative sector with high potential. To realize the full benefits of a thriving music industry, it was then recommended that the city develop a sector-specific strategy that would enable economic development, support economic recovery from the impact of COVID-19, maintain and grow the activity of the music industry. The city then, as Danica just pointed out, collaborated with Nordicity in a three-phase project that ultimately leads us to here today. Phase one was an extensive research and discovery phase, followed by some additional public engagement, and finally concluding with the development of the strategy put forth before you today. Speaking to why such a strategy is important, a thriving music industry can create a variety of benefits for a city like Kingston. These benefits range from economic impacts that are quite self-evident, be they from attracting nighttime economy, tourism, or business investment, to social impacts, improving the lives of Kingstonians, to placemaking impacts, attracting new residents, building the city brand, celebrating diversity. A strong local music industry can contribute to all of these goals simultaneously. So I'll pass it now to Caitlin to speak to the strategy.
Thanks, Christian. Good evening, everyone. The Kingston Music Strategy has three components: the vision, the strategic pillars, and the foundational principles. The vision is the big picture aspiration for Kingston's music industry. It's there to help visualize a long-term future direction. So it may not necessarily be achieved in 5 years necessarily, but it's what the strategy helps work towards building. The vision for the Kingston Music Strategy is for the city to be a hub and incubator for musician development, music careers, a strong music scene where all music is ubiquitous and can be seen and heard by all. The strategic pillars are 4 priority areas of this strategy. Pillar 1 is cultivate spaces and places. This is about the physical spaces that musicians and music industry workers need to work, create, rehearse, perform, collaborate, and so on. Pillar 2 is empower and invest in talent. This is about the talent pipeline present here in Kingston, the musicians and the workers in the local industry who want to advance their careers, grow as entrepreneurs, and be connected to the right development supports and opportunities. Pillar 3 is amplify connection and visibility. This one is about boosting the connection between the city and the music industry, connection within the music industry itself and to other creative industries, and promoting Kingston's music industry on a wider scale. Pillar 4 is bolster city leadership. This one is about supports at the city level. Music-friendly processes, procedures, bylaws, and policies that are easily navigable by music creatives lead to ideal conditions for the local music industry to thrive. Each pillar contains a set of recommendations, which are the things to achieve, as well as a set of supporting actions or steps to take to achieve those things. And I'll get into that more in just a moment. And the final component are the 5 foundational principles, which are guiding principles that underpin the entire strategy. Artists are at the core of the music industry, so the strategy is artist-centered to keep their needs at top of mind through each step. Building on history means celebrating and amplifying past successes in Kingston because a lot of good has happened here already, while exploring new avenues where there's room to grow. Collaborative stewardship means ensuring advancing the strategy is a collaborative effort amongst interested groups, including the City of Kingston, but certainly also including other partners like Tourism Kingston, the Economic Development Corporation, schools, the music community itself, and more. Seamless integration means the music strategy should align and support existing policies and strategies like the City of Kingston's strategic plan, the creative industry strategy, the integrated economic development strategy, and more. And finally, because a music industry is strengthened when it serves and is accessible to all, the city's indigenization, inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility lens permeates the whole framework. I'll quickly walk you through each of the 4 pillars now. I won't read everything off these slides for the sake of time, but know that all of this content is already included in the strategy report that you've all received. Pillar 1, cultivate spaces and places. The goal of this pillar is to establish the conditions for more affordable and varied places for those in the music industry to work, rehearse, and perform. There are 3 recommendations in this pillar. For example, support the creation and retention of accessible, affordable, and varied spaces. And to achieve those, Pillar 1 has 8 supporting actions. A few are highlighted here on the screen, like identify spaces that can be repurposed to support music creation and affordable living. Pillar 2 is empower and invest in talent, with the goal being to improve access to performance and economic opportunities and professional development to create the conditions that make music a more viable career. As you can see, there are 3 recommendations, like develop policies and incentives that ensure fair compensation for performers and so on. And there are 8 supporting actions for this one as well. 3 are once again highlighted on your screen, including consult with the Musicians Union to develop learning opportunities for musicians, including contracts and fee negotiation. Pillar 3, amplify connection and visibility, has a goal of nurturing the grounds for a connected industry that fosters collaboration, provides opportunity for audience development, and encourages tourist visits. There are 3 recommendations here as well, including increased connections with the local music industry and to other creative industries. Pillar 3 has 7 supporting actions, 3 of which are once again on your screen, including establishing the Kingston Music Working Group and expanding visibility and scope of YGK music. Finally, Pillar 4, bolster city leadership and support, with the goal to enhance existing city supports to create possibilities for the industry and a vibrant music scene. 4 recommendations here, like enable a thriving industry through musician and audience-friendly bylaws and policies. And there are 8 supporting actions for Pillar 4, with a few highlighted here, like ensure the existence of a music officer and establish a Kingston Music Office. Finally, I'll touch on some implementation considerations. The strategy does not have a set expiration, but actions have been categorized according to whether they should be prioritized in the short, medium, and long term, with longer term approximately 5 years from now and beyond. Investment from the city will depend on a number of factors, but the cost of some short-term recommendations are estimated to be between $100,000 and $150,000 annually for a music officer and approximately $65,000 for a feasibility study for the repurposing of a space, which is an action in Pillar 1. In the longer term, the annual cost to run a fully operating music office is estimated to be between $250,000 and $375,000 annually, plus programming costs. In terms of actioning, as Danica said, the music officer is the person responsible, primarily responsible for actioning and implementing the strategy, so is the highest priority action. Assembling the music office and the Kingston Music Working Group are also key, and so should be among the first items addressed by the officer. I'll now pass it back to Christian to wrap us up.
Thank you, Caitlin. I get the fun stuff. And it's important as a final thought to remember that it is only together with the partners, with the talented musicians, with the dedicated members of the music community in Kingston, and its passionate residents, that the city will help to orchestrate the future where music thrives and enriches the lives of all who learn, live, work, and play here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Questions from council? All good? Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to item 7, business. Approval of the Kingston Arts Council Plan for Administration of Arts Funding for the Corporation of the City of Kingston for 2024. Are there any further committee questions? No? Is there anyone? Oh, Councillor Sanek?
It's not really a question. Are we then going to go into discussion about it? Because I want to move an amendment. So.
Okay. Once we go into see if there's any members of the public that have questions, then we'll come back in and do business. Okay. Are there any members of the public?
Through you, Mr. Vice Chair, there are no members of the public present.
Okay. Councillor Sonic?
We'll need a mover and second
Oh.
to get on the floor, please.
Okay. Mover and seconder? Councillor Steven, Councillor Sonic? All in favor?
No.
No. I was trying to slip that in there. Councillor Sonic, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I guess this is a question then to staff. So with this revised plan, is this what we're forwarding to the consultant who's going to be working on the review?
Thank you, and through you as chair. Yes, the consultants do have historical plan for administrations. They have a lot of different sort of background materials, but this will absolutely be sent to the consultants for consideration in their review.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, is it true that really this is the first time we've made a revision to the objectives on page 5 and 6?
Thank you, and through you as chair. There have been historically some changes made to the objectives. I believe it was through the Arts Advisory Committee many years ago, but they were minor sort of changes to the objectives to make them more true to the goals of the program, but they were really not significant enough to change the scope and the purpose or the overarching vision of the arts funding program.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I just have a problem removing the word all when we're, about to do the review with the consultant. Like if the consultant, he, she, they, if they think that the objectives can still be inclusive enough that all doesn't, have to stay in there, I would rather get the package from them with that recommendation. Like more than ever, the city needs to be inclusive, right? We have a manager looking after that. We have the City of Kingston Inclusion Charter, and I know that there's been a historic problem with the Kingston Arts Fund that it's too specific to certain groups and doesn't give enough money to other groups, which is why this review of the last, we've had this Arts Fund now since 2007. So this is why, handing it over to the consultant to do an independent review analysis is so important, and I just feel really uneasy having the word all removed from number 2, even though the 4th point does say strengthen and expand access to the arts. And the 5th point does say create inclusive activities. I just don't think right now, when we've just hired a consultant, is the time to remove that word all. And, for the past 17 years, we've done our best to try to, make the Arts Fund, you know, to as many Kingston residents as possible. So if we put the word all back in there, I don't think it's going to, you know, be make it or break it, but at least then that's giving the consultant the objectives that we have had for many, many years. And so with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move an amendment that we insert the word all into page 5, the second bullet.
Do I have a seconder for that? I don't have a seconder.
Right, so I will not be supporting this then. Thank you.
Okay. I will call the motion to vote. Oh, Councillor Shaves. Councillor Shaves, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify the reason for the and. I don't actually have the report in front of me, but the reason for it, because within the criteria it said initially that all applicants must meet all these requirements, 1 through 4 or 5, wherever they were. The one said must, and I can be corrected by a staff member, that it had to appease or be by all Kingston residents. And my example of that was, for hypothetically, I may like music, but I may not like dance. So an applicant who performs dance would not meet that criteria because it does not meet all my requirements. And someone else may like dance, but they may not like visual arts. So that's why that was sort of removed, because it was a little too descriptive on the applicant appeasing every single Kingstonian. So that's, like I said, that's the reason why I suggested removing the all, because it just, in my reading and how I presented it, and I'm not sure if I'm presenting it correctly, was the fact that one applicant had to appease every single Kingstonian in order to be approved for the fund. And that's not the point of the fund. So, and not everyone's going to like everything. We all know that. We could have 10 people in the room, and not everyone's going to like everything. So that's the background, the reason behind the removal of and. Not for it not to be inclusive, but the fact to be actually more inclusive by removing the word and. Thank you.
Okay, any comments from staff? No? All right. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? And opposed? Okay, passes 4 to 1. Opposed is Councillor Wasanik. Okay, we'll move on to item B. Staff will do that. Introduction through commissioner or manager?
Thank you, and through you,
Commissioner
we don't.
Campbell?
Oh,
Yep.
thank you. Thank you, and through you, we don't have a formal presentation on this matter, but we are bringing forward the update to the sports field allocation policy. It's a procedural opportunity to review our policies to make sure that they're, understood and servicing our needs and the community's needs. I think the report's fairly evident, but obviously myself and Tony Gregaro, who's our manager of recreation, are available to take any questions if we can help. Thanks.
Okay, questions from the committee? Councillor Sanik?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So very nice to meet you, Mr. Gregaro, right? Because we've been going back and forth over email for a while. So for the tournaments, it looks like it's a little bit more organized maybe for the tournaments for 2024. And it looks like we got like a good process going, and I don't know, I think we need more of a window to get organized. Like, I liked how in the sports allocation policy, it now has extra information about the requirement of porta potties and the waste and recycling, like all that sort of thing. So we know from last year's experience in 2023 that some tournaments start up really early in May. So is it fair to say that I think our contact person still will be Chris Patterson, right? So Chris will reach out to the tournament organizers in April then, just so we don't have that, really that 5-day, emails everywhere and everyone in a panic experience.
Manager Gargaro?
Oh, thank you. I'm new to this too, so thanks for having me through the chair. So, yeah, we did look at the tournaments themselves, and we're working with TK or Tourism Kingston, and we bumped up the timelines even by recommendation of the user groups to that they wanted more time to prepare for the tournaments in the year. So we actually bumped up those dates so they can inform us earlier when their tournaments are. And I've never had a bigger discussion about porta potties in my life and went to the user group meeting, so that was recognized. And we will make sure that those porta potties or the washing facilities are in place for those tournaments. Yeah, so it is a policy that was based largely on the ice allocation policy, which is very successful. And so it's modeled after that, and we took the recommendations, and there wasn't very much feedback. And in fact, we extended the feedback to the process and the policy, thinking we weren't getting or capturing everything, but there was very little feedback, and everybody seemed to be acceptable. And I was at those meetings, and there was no real concerns raised except for the porta potties.
Thank you. And my second point is it looks like there's a lot of work being done in 2024 on the baseball fields and the bleachers too, which can be used. I guess that would also be soccer and baseball. So thanks very much for putting that in the report. Thank you.
And next is Councillor Shaves.
Thank you. And this came up, I think one of the studies came up about who actually uses our fields and our facilities within the city. And came up that we have quite a few non-residents. Just wondering if we're looking at having maybe a higher user fee for any non-residents that use our fields. Not that they're in the league that would compensate, so I mean individually.
Manager Gargaro?
So thank you, Councillor. So the policy, this policy will capture or protect allocated space. So if non-residents are using that space and there's a demand for residents to use that same field, it will go to those residents, our residents here in Kingston, to use those fields. As far as fees and bylaws, it's a different avenue that we'd have to take to differentiate those fees for non-residents versus residents. But this will protect the space for Kingston residents in that policy.
Okay, thank you. And under 3.15 allocation for new organizations and emerging sports, are we seeing an increase in field requests from either current organizations wanting to expand or from new requests?
So I went back to staff and asked, as I'm fairly new, so I wanted to know that point and say, like, is there a bigger demand for our sport and user fields? And they did indicate that there was on the shoulder seasons a bigger demand for our turf fields. There was no identified of new and emerging sports per se, and there was just only a slight increase in use. And we will see too, because they have to share their numbers in January and February, the user groups. So if there is another bump, we can see if there was a bump in the demand for fields. But there was no largely emerging trends of new user groups coming in. And in fact, that the policy does address if there is a group coming in that provides the same service as existing groups, they will have to work with those groups, or we'll work with them, and they'll get only the space left over that's there if they're not providing a new service.
Okay, thank you. And just to follow up on that one, do we have fields that we are currently not utilizing, which maybe we could use to accommodate these extra demands?
Yes.
Good enough. Thank you. Short and sweet.
Any other questions? Councillor Stephen, will you take the chair?
I have the chair, Councillor Amos.
So So I have a couple of questions in regards to the report. Item 3.6. I'll let you get there. Youth recreation groups. I'm curious why we picked the word youth and not just go with recreation groups, because this seems very limited. There could be seniors out there that want to do ball or soccer, and this seems, it wouldn't necessarily fall under the seasonal category, but they wouldn't fit into the current youth recreation group either.
Manager Gargaro?
For the youth recreation group, so they're one of the largest users, and identified that they get priority for the fields, and they just establish the priority of use for each person in the fields. If it's a seniors group or an older group, then they can fall in other categories: seasonal user group or occasional users. To my understanding, youth recreational groups, or it can be a partner group. So if there's a partner group already, they're bumped ahead and they get priority over the youth groups themselves as well.
Okay. In regards to the play formula that is proposed in here, who developed it? And are we drawing from best practices from other cities?
Manager Gargaro?
The formula is based largely on the allocation policy, like the ice allocation policy, and they've borrowed that from that. They've used the terms that relate to the fields and soccer pitches, and the house leagues and the user groups in those teams of those ages.
Okay. Item 3.18. Did we consult with field user groups on these dates?
Councillor Amos, could you repeat that number again, please?
3.18,
Thank you.
page 55 of the report. So there's a number of dates that are listed that for our user groups to abide by, but I just want to make sure that they were consulted on these dates and are not surprised by these dates.
Actually, these dates were the ones I was referring to, that some of them got bumped up. The user groups wanted more time to submit for their tournaments and prepare for the tournaments, because the tournaments are assigned or bid on by these user groups. And so they are aware of these dates, and they actually changed some of them or asked some of them to be bumped up.
Perfect, okay. Item 3.20.1. I'm curious why Woodbine is only centered out in that and not the other volleyball courts. Is there a rationale there? Is Woodbine more like better courts? Is there like a level A and a level B volleyball court?
So the only courts I know that have been booked out, even in our booking system, are the Woodbine courts. So there's the 4 courts there, and they were booked in our booking system. But I don't know why they don't reference any other. I can find that out.
Thank you. Yep. Last item. Item 3.22.1. And I bring this forward because of climate change. And I'm wondering if instead of shutting our fields down on September 30th, if we should move it further back to October 15th, because we're just seeing longer seasons. And this will give our user groups a chance to enjoy the fields a little bit longer.
So I can take that question back to Public Works. They're the ones that established the maintenance program, and these are the dates that they needed to require the maintenance of their season closing, season opening dates. So I can take that question back to them and see if they can get their process completed in that time frame.
Perfect, thank you. That's it.
Okay, return the chair.
Are there any members of the public?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are no members of the public present.
Okay. Can I have a mover and a seconder to accept this? Councillor Ridge, Councillor Osanek. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Item C is withdrawn as per Appendix 1, or Addendum 1, sorry. So we'll move on to item D. Item D is approval of the Kingston Music Strategy and Implementation Plan. Are there any further committee questions? Councillor Shaves.
I have only one, actually. In regards to the implementation of this strategy and the cost benefits, considering it appears that we were going into another, I'll say, harsh round of budgets this year or in January, I just want to see what the timelines are expected, or if we could push this back a year. I'm fully supportive of this. I want it to happen, but starting something new at this point in time is just financially concerning. Thank you.
Director Lockheed.
Through you as chair, so recognizing the fiscal position the city is in going to 2024, we have made the decision to defer specific action items from the Kingston Music Strategy that require a net new budget ask. And as well, we will be bringing back a funding strategy to continue to support the implementation of the Kingston Music Strategy going forward. For 2024, what this means is that we are prioritizing specific action items where we can leverage existing resources. So, for example, supporting the establishment of a Kingston music officer through the partnership with Tourism Kingston is being funded through existing capital budget and arts and culture services, so that we can really initiate this work using existing budget. We're also going to be, through the work planning process for 2024, identifying action items that do not require net new operating dollars. We have also not included any net new asks in our 2024 operating budget, but feel confident that there are specific actions in the music strategy that do not require new direct investment, can use existing resources so that we can continue to build on the momentum that's been developed through the Kingston Music Strategy in this past year.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that and easing my financial mind. Thank you.
Okay. So a recommendation that the Arts Recreation...
So we'll leave first to see if any other members want to speak. Two couple questions and then we'll...
Any other questions from the committee? None? Any questions from the public?
One last time, through Mr. Vice Chair, I can confirm there are indeed no members of the public present.
Okay. Can I get a mover and a seconder for this? Councillor Shaves, Councillor Sanek. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. We'll move on to item 8, motions. There are none. Item 9, notices of motions. There are none. Item 10, other business. None. Item 11, correspondence on the addendum. And item 12, date of next meeting will be Thursday, February 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. I get a mover and a seconder to adjourn. Councillor Ridge, Councillor Shaves, all those in favor? Pass unanimously. Thank you.